Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever is Jason Bucket. And we are here to talk about, unfortunately, all things Leeds United. 2-2 draw at home with Swansea yesterday. Take your pick where you want to start with this one. Full disclosure, I didn't actually get to watch the game, which might have been a good thing, but I've obviously watched the highlights. I've consumed all the material under the sun, articles, fan content, spoken to Jason, obviously, in the group, just to kind of get a measure on what happened yesterday. I don't think I've ever been as angry about a game that I've not seen, which is absolutely wild, but it's the implications for the season. We saw Sheffield United turn up Friday night against what was supposed to be a difficult game against Coventry and just do the business nice and comfortable. No post-international break wobble, no, but we're rusty and any of this nonsense. They just got on with it. They did the business, which is what they've been doing. And the same for Burnley. Again, could have been a challenging game, but as soon as they go 1-0 up, they're not dropping points there. They haven't lost in 26 games. Those two, just their form, the top of the form table. Leeds are getting worse week by week. It's 1 win in 5, and it's critical point again. As soon as we've hit that 11 games left, just like last season, we are crumbling. There's no doubt about it. I'm pissed off, and I want to see fans get their comments in as well. How do you feel about this one? Whose fault is it? What is going on with this, and are we going to get over the line? Myself and Jason, we were on Thursday or Friday, whenever it was, and I backed the boys to do it. And that faith is wobbling. I think you'd have to be blind not to be doubting this now, because just everything coming out of this club at the minute is just alarm bells. I'm glad we weren't on yesterday. It'd have been much stronger than this. But Jason, I mean, where do you start with this one? I mean, first of all, the lineup. Let's kind of go back to the start. The lineup. We saw Ampadu come in. We saw Sam Byram come in. I said on Thursday show, I'm a massive fan of Ampadu. Love it when he's in the team. Obviously, I've not been watching him in training all week. I don't know if he's rusty. I don't know if he's going to be back to his absolute best. That's for the manager to be able to make a call on that. But not really played in midfield much. I mean, if anything, I'm calling for him to replace Stroik, not come into the midfield. But, with Tanaka being away on international duty, you kind of go, okay, yeah, I get it. Same for Firpo, possibly. There's an argument, where's Schmidt and what's Schmidt been all season? And, I don't understand that one, quite frankly. That's looking a bit bizarre. But that team, Jason, before we kind of get into your overall vibe, I mean, were you happy with it kind of pre-match? What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, okay. We've got to be careful not to jump about today. I mean, obviously, I've got a lot to say as well, and trust me, guys, I will. And for me, there is certainly probably the first feeling of a wobble. I've been really staunch in my kind of take all season in that it's the best team in the division. Still think it is. And then we'll get the job done. Now I'm starting to worry. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna give him his bite just very, very quickly. I think it's really, really funny that one of the first comments in as a Huddersfield Town fan on the same day or the day after being today, his team gets pumped 4-0 in a playoff potentially deciding game. So I think that's hilarious. But that's just Town fans, and we know how pathetic and small they are. So anyway, we'll get that out of the way and get that dealt with. The lineup, I'm not surprised that Tanaka and Firpo didn't start. I think that was fair. They were both on a plane still Friday. So, they only basically touched down locally Friday afternoon. And then to expect them on a time zone to play a game less than 24 hours later would probably be a bit unrealistic. Not got a problem with that. In hindsight of seeing how Ethan played, I have a big problem with the fact that Ampadu played. I have a big problem with the fact that Ampadu played, because it feels now in hindsight that it was desperate, that Daniel Farke felt like he had no choice but to put Ampadu back into that side. And that just makes no sense to me. We know how important Ampadu is, but he was less than 50% ready for me yesterday. He
was
was less than
holding his knee as well at one point as well.
He got a knock, which I think were a knee-to-knee knock. I don't think it was anything injury-wise to be worried about. I'm not sure, but he still played for another maybe 20, 30 minutes there after that. But he was miles off at me. He was so rusty. And you're right, we thrust him into... Obviously, he is a midfielder, but we thrust him into a position in which he's not played for a long time for Leeds, straight on the back of being, out with injury. Swansea, a very different outfit to when we played them last time. Pressed us very high. Ethan had no time on the ball whatsoever. None of them did. They were quickly on top of us, which was testament to them. They were a good side. I were impressed with the way that they set about it, to be honest. But yeah, I was really not happy in hindsight with the fact that Ethan started the game. You've got Gruev, who's just been voted Bulgarian's best player this year, for God's sake. And he's another player that he loves. Daniel Farke absolutely loves him. Why are we forcing it in a game against 17th in the league for Ethan? Why is it so desperate that he has to come back in the side? I understand the leadership qualities that he brings. I want him back in the side as well. But if he's not 100% ready after quite a long layoff, you don't start him, regardless of the Tanaka situation. It's crazy. And then Byram, I've been really... again, staunch in the defence of Farke when it comes to this Byram over Schmidt debate. It's more than just the technical ability. Sometimes he trusts Byram. He's a bit of a leader, like he's his boy. I'm all right with all that because I understand it makes more than just what we see as fans to make an 11 on the pitch, to get the best out of the team. I get it. But when Schmidt goes away with Switzerland and plays 60 minutes and makes his Swiss, debut out there, gets praise from the Swiss manager, he plays well. Surely against Swansea at home, that is the opportunity when Junior Firpo's rested to play him. I don't understand that. I can't make a logical explanation to defend Daniel Farke with it. I can't, because Schmidt offers more going forward than Byram does anyway. He's more natural on the left side than Byram is anyway, and he's coming in with a bit of form. It just makes no sense to me. So, yeah, I weren't that happy with that decision, as you can tell, either. But everything else, I think, was fair. I think Solomon, Aronson, James, people can kind of pretend as much as they want that should change. It still shouldn't. Solomon had a bit of a stinker yesterday, but he was one of a collective. I thought Brendan played particularly well. I think people will... tarnish him with the same brush as the rest of the team because we didn't play well. I thought Brendan had moments where he was more back to his better self. His press was very, very good. And Dan James huffed and puffed, but again, the quality weren't around him, So the overlaps weren't there. The Byram and Bogle didn't have a good game either. So yeah, it wasn't a good performance. It wasn't a good feeling overall, but we know ultimately, and I've said this for weeks and weeks and weeks, we should be able to have off games and still come through them with 3 points. That's what the top teams that win divisions do. And when you have what we have in our goal, you can't, because the team has to be perfect. That's the biggest problem, mate. The team has to be perfect to be able to win a game.
Well, yeah, Ilan Melier, I mean, what is left to say about this guy? I mean, I want to preface by saying, none of this is personal or anything like that. Absolutely, this is just football terms. But how he is our starting goalkeeper, how he's been allowed to have 5 years as Leeds keeper, how he's reached 200 appearances in net for Leeds. I mean, it's an insult to your great goalkeepers of the past for this club, Nigel Martin and all these guys. It's a slap in the face because this guy's nowhere near it. I mean, I was going through it in my head today. I was thinking, okay, so what was he like last year? And he was poor last year. He had very little to do, really. I mean, the Leicester save was kind of his big moment, but generally speaking, he had very little to do, and he was still one of the lowest performing keepers in the league. Yeah. Coming into this season, you think, okay, I mean, I absolutely thought he should have been replaced in the summer. I think everyone thought he should be replaced in the summer. And then summer comes and goes. You start the season, first game against Portsmouth, we're absolutely flying out of traps, 1-0 from a penalty. We're dominating. We're creating so many. I mean, we had so many chances in that opening period against Portsmouth. It looked like, yeah, this is happening. And then he just lets one through him. And ever since then, it's like he might go 4 or 5 games where he's barely tested, or he might make a couple of good saves. But these moments, it happens. Sunderland, you go through the archive, there's so many games later. At Hull, we were winning 3-1 at Hull. We were beating Hull 3-1 until he spooned it in. I even thought QPR a couple of weeks ago, I thought he was a big part of that as well, the way he dithered when he was coming out. And the fact that this guy is just, and I don't know whose fault is it. Right. So in the summer, did they even talk about replacing Meslier? Well, I doubt it, because they gave him, what was it, third captain, or he was nearly vice captain, or some madness like that. So that tells you that somebody's supporting him. Is it Farker? I don't know. Is it the recruitment team? I don't know what it is. But honestly, it has cost us so dearly. It's cost us, if you're being generous, 9 points.
It's 12.
Generous.
It's 12. It's 12. I calculated it yesterday. It's 12.
But 5 or 6 points is too much. Do you know what I mean? With an extra 9-10 points, we're home and hosed. And I don't think any of these other problems even happen. The defence are walking on eggshells with him. Rodon. I put a tweet out yesterday. Someone said, and it's on our thumbnail as well, Rodon looking after this Meslier mistake. And for me, it's like Rodon wasn't even angry by that time. It's like, the 7 stages of grief. He's reached acceptance now. He's not even angry anymore. He's just, I accept that this is what this guy is like and this is what's happening. We have to put up with it. And I think you're right as well. Carl Darlow, I mean, plays for Wales. He's obviously got that relationship with Rodon, Ampadu, James. I mean, I agree with you. I've not been impressed with Darlow when I've seen him, but my God.
Just to preface what Browney's saying there, he's talking about something that I said just before we came on air. This is how flustered we are. Like, we're 24 hours after and we're still, like, trying to piece this all together. But basically, I said to Browney that Carl Darlow is exactly the same as every... It was before the stream, mate.
We were ranting before, sorry. Yeah.
Carl Darlow's pretty much the same as every championship goalkeeper. Yeah. Is no lower or higher than any other championship keeper that you'll see. Unfortunately, now what we've got is a situation where Illan Meslier is the step down from that. He's actually below that. Whether it's because of regression, whether it's because of confidence, whatever it is, the stage that Illan Meslier is at now, he wouldn't look out of place in League One. He wouldn't. He's making such basic errors that it's costing us so vitally. Like, everything he seems to get involved in costs us goals. Earlier on in the season, when we weren't conceding, when we get a clean sheet, it's because Mellier's had nothing to do for 90 minutes. You go and have a look, he's made 1 save or no saves. They've had no shots on target. That's what was happening. The game directly after the last big mistake, I forget which one it was, he was back in the side and he had nothing to do for 90 minutes. He had no shots on target. That's what happens. That's how good we are at retaining possession. Now, the problem is as you just said there, we walk on eggshells. The team are aware of this factor. If we give the ball away, if we're not perfect and we concede a shot on goal, something's going to happen. We're going to concede. And that ultimately is exactly what happened yesterday. Now, he saves the penalty, but it means nothing because of everything that then came then after. I mean, the poor guy, I mean, I feel a little bit sorry for him. It's his first penalty save in 7 years, right? It's the first penalty we have seen saved as a Leeds United fan in a meaningful game in 7 years. That is insane, right, to start with. But then it means nothing because of what he then does afterwards. Just catching a simple cross. A League Two goalkeeper would have caught that cross every time, you know? Absolutely. And again, it's not that it's just one. I said this to you before we came on air as well. The second goal, if that's the first time that kind of shot's gone in, we're all saying he should have done better, but usually he makes that save. He doesn't. He never makes that save. It goes through him like that every time a shot comes from that angle that shouldn't go in. The striker doesn't even have to score a worldie, mate. No. We don't concede goals like that. Every goal that goes in feels like he could save it. Every single one.
Well, I said to Jason before the stream, And whether you buy into XG, whether you think it's too hard to quantify and if it really means anything, but the XG for Swansea's equaliser yesterday was 0.03, which means out of 100 attempts of the same strike, it only goes in 3 times generally. Now, like I say, I don't know what your opinions are on XG, but it paints a picture of what this guy is up to in net. And I agree with Jess. I do feel a little bit sorry for him. And this shouldn't have been allowed to happen. Jason, why has this been allowed to happen? Why hasn't Farker or recruit who's ultimately to blame for this? Because I think it already has probably cost us at this point. But I mean, what Farker, has he been told from above, no, we're not going down a keeper route because of X, Y, and Z? Or, is he stubborn like everyone said he's stubborn and he's got a point to prove? And I mean, someone is to blame for this guy still being in net. I don't get it. It's crazy. I mean, could you imagine Scott Parker or Wilder putting up with someone doing this in net for this amount of time? It's madness. It's madness.
It wouldn't happen. It absolutely wouldn't happen. I pushed back against you earlier on in the season when you said that it had cost us, because I felt like we would dominate so much that it wouldn't matter, given the level of occurrence of the problems at the time. It were like, 6 games would go by where it didn't have anything to do. 1 game would come up where it did. But now it's happening more often because of pressure's telling, because it's coming to the time of the season where teams are being a bit more competitive because either they're pushing against relegation, pushing for playoff. The games are changing. The game states are changing. He's having more to do, especially when we're not right at it because of either the confidence or because we're in a bad run of form. And you were absolutely spot on. You were absolutely spot on, and I was wrong. I think it now probably will cost us. That's how it's feeling to me, unless we do something about it, which we'll come to. But you're absolutely spot on. And when you say whose decision is it, I think it was probably a collective. I think it's a combination of the club and Daniel Farke. I think they look at the squad and be like, right, Glenn Kamara, what do you think of him? No, I'm happy to move him on. We can replace him with somebody better, right? What about Altanaka? Yeah, we can replace him. Done. I think the conversation with Illan Meslier is, well, we want to get 10 million quid for him, because I genuinely think at the beginning of the season, that's the ballpark of what they would value him at, because of his age, because of his experience, because of his reputation, what he did in the Premier League and all the rest of it. We know he's not worth that, but I'm talking about the way that the club will talk about their asset, because that's what he is. And Daniel Farke's gone, I reckon I can work with him. So I think it's a collective of the two. I think if he was steadfast on wanting to replace him, the club would have replaced him. So ultimately, the decision and the responsibility falls at the manager's feet. Now, second to that is, at this stage, I don't even blame Illan Meslier anymore. I don't. I blame Daniel Farke. And again, I defend Daniel Farke, but there's only one man that is putting him on that team sheet.
Yeah.
And he should have been dropped before now. And I played devil's advocate before and said, playing devil's advocate, what can he bring? What could be the reasons that it would stick with him? And it then kind of played out in that it was probably the right call for a period of time, because we then went back on a run again after the last big mistake, and he's had some okay performances in that period of time. But when we've needed him again most now on the back of an international break, he then drops the clanger and costs us another 2 points when it's most vital, mate. So at this stage, I cannot defend, and I will not try and defend again, Daniel Farke for starting Meslier. If Meslier comes out at Luton, I can only then surmise it's ego. It's pure ego on the part of the manager, and he
absolutely
won't be weird from what he's stuck to. And that's all I can then come back to, mate, because I am lost. I'm lost with it. Because Caldala, like I say, has got problems, but he's a run-of-the-mill championship keeper. He would start for at least half of the division. He'd probably start for more than half of the division. So, starting every international game now for Wales, while not starting or playing at all for Leeds. He's capable, mate. He's capable. So
it's beyond infuriating. Against Hull, we played Hull something like 13th of January or something like that. Still half of the transfer window left. And he did what he did against Hull, cost us massively, because we were on a good run then, and we were flying, and he just completely, we'd drawn the previous game against Blackburn. It would have been perfect to just, it was even earlier actually, it was the 4th of January we played Hull. when Meslier made those mistakes against Hull. You've got the rest of the January transfer window to go, you know what? I said it at the time, go out and get a replacement. If Darlow's not your man, you go out and you do something. Don't tell me that a recruitment team scouting the planet and the 49ers with the financial backing and all this kind of thing couldn't have gone out and got somebody else. Get Blackburn's keeper. Blackburn's keeper was at the top of the thing. Pay 20 million. Get this guy out of net.
Browney, go and get Alex Palmer. Alex Palmer went to Ipswich, who were coming back down, right? And you're not telling me that you wouldn't have been able to sell the project to Alex Palmer to come and play for Leeds United for the rest of the season, get promoted, and then you'd be a Premier League keeper over going to Ipswich in January. They signed him in January. Absolutely. So go get Alex Palmer. It was. I mean, in the summer, Victor Johansson was there. Go get you Victor Johansson. It's not rocket science. It's really not. It's simple recruitment. Is that and I understand a Leeds United keeper needs to be able to play with his feet. I do see that, and I am going to keep on bringing it back to some perspective with what we get out of Illan Meslier, because he is good. Regardless of what you want to try and say about his distribution, he is good at the way that he controls the play in the backline in a Daniel Farke system. That might not be the way you as a fan would set your team up. That's irrelevant. I'm talking about the way that Daniel Farke plays football. Illan Meslier is good at starting what he does. But it now has gone into the ridiculous with the other side. You might as well, Browney, play a centre midfielder in net.
Absolutely.
You had put a pair of gloves on, fucking Ilan Gruev. Sorry, I'm swearing. We never swear on it. That's how stressed I'm getting. Put a pair of gloves on Ilya Gruev and stick him in net, because his distribution would be better than Mellier's, and he'll save nothing either. Because that's where we're at with Meslier. It's insane. It's insane.
I'm flabbergasted. I can't believe that you would build a squad, the best squad in the league, the highest wage bill. Every position looks, full and competitive, and we've got options here, we've got options there, but you leave this glaring black hole in net to undermine everything and cost you 12 points. It's got to go down as one of the all-time self-owns. Why? Any Leeds fan was telling you that we'd have all jumped for joy in the summer if he'd have been replaced. We'd have all been, great. What was the Rotherham keeper that was going
Victor Janssen? Victor Janssen.
Do you know what I mean? It's if we'd have had a goalkeeper who was the 10th best goalkeeper in the league, we'd have had more points. But we've got one of the worst in Europe. Those
you could argue
come out. It's mad.
You could argue if we had Trafford or Cooper, we'd already be promoted.
Oh, we'd have been up. Oh, we'd have been.
We would actually already be confirmed with 7 games to go. That's the 100%. Difference between the two, because we are so dominating, and we have been so dominating throughout the season so far, that it makes that much difference. And not that I want to pull us on, and you please bring me back to Meslier if you kind of want to carry on going down this train. But I just think Gavin's made a good point with regards to the build-up for the second goal. By no means are we saying that Meslier is the only problem with what's happening yesterday. The bigger problem is that the confidence within the team, because of him behind, is creating further issues. Players should be able to have a bad day at the office. Tanaka didn't play well when he came on. Joseph can't try to win. Joseph should be nowhere near the side. Bear in mind that some of you in watching this, and certainly some of the bigger wide spread of Leeds fans, would have had him starting games last season. Joseph is miles away from playing in this team. He's terrible, in my opinion. I think he's miles on. I thought he was going to be top scorer at the beginning of the season when I saw him in pre-season. I cannot believe how far this version of Mateo Joseph has gone off, and he's got time, and I'm not killing him long term, but he's terrible. He's honestly terrible. Tanaka then terrible. Pascal gets megged, terrible defending, but then he's at an angle that's giving him an XG of 0.03, lads. That's the reality, and your keeper should be able to beat it. Every single goal that every team concedes is a mistake in some fashion or another. Somebody has made a mistake that's led to that position. Your last line of defense is in your goalkeeper, who you just asked to make basic saves, and he can't.
It's staggering. And like you say, if he doesn't get replaced for the rest of the season, he can't be in net for the Jason, he can't be in net. If he's still in net, you're absolutely right. It's Farke ego trip or
pure ego.
stubbornness times a million. You can't have this guy going goal again because this can happen at any point. You can be winning 1-0 and it can be the 98th minute and this guy will drop a clanger. You know, this is the problem. You're never safe unless you're winning 2-3 goals. You're not certain because this guy will do basic errors and will let basic shots through him. Cannot be allowed to be in net again.
Would have gone on to win the game yesterday 1-0 if he hadn't thrown the first one in, because the game don't play out like it did. We were fairly comfortable. I mean, we were building into the second half. We were far better second half than we were first half. Tanaka does what Tanaka did in terms of giving away the corner. I mean, I don't know what he's doing. He absolutely bullets one back with no accuracy whatsoever, and it goes out for a corner. But if he just catches that first ball, very similar to the Hull 2, the second goal was the drop. It wasn't the first. It wasn't the equaliser. That's my point. You know what I mean? Like there were another goal that came after that. We probably go on and see the game out. Swansea weren't really threatening. They didn't batter us goal in that second half. If they'd have scored in the first half, they'd have probably deserved one. But second half, it weren't like they were on top. So these moments are key in games. They're absolutely key. There's so much to get into in some of these comments as well. And I am reading them all. And I know Browney will be scanning over them all. Don't think that we're being ignorant to them. I think we're just a bit...
Yeah, we
needed to get it off our chest. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's a great point. We will cover your comments. Thank you so much for getting him in. We will come to them, I promise. And if you're watching on, please do like the video as well. Share this conversation. Let's get this debate going, please. I want to know one thing. Why, when we take the lead after a minute, are we performing so horrendously that first half when you're at home against 17th in the league? Yes, fine, they were good. Fine, but you can't have it both ways. We're the most talented squad, yet we can't handle, Swansea pressing us. For me, there's something where they're losing confidence. Now, you could look at the Melier thing, and that's part of it, but it's not why players can't pass a ball 5 yards and why there's no patterns of play anymore, why it all just seems to be disintegrating. What is going on? What are we doing? What this pressure cooker? I'm watching Sheffield United knocking the ball about and nice little passages of play. And I don't even think they've played well this season, but they've just kept at it and they looked comfortable. Burnley again, comfortable. Why are we playing like the weight of the world on our shoulders? For me, this is, and I'm sorry to say, I can't believe it's happening again, because this is exactly what happened last year. We spent the entire season last year getting ourselves back into automatic contention. And when we did, we crumbled in those last 11 games. And we're doing the exact same thing again. It's like, for me, what is the message that Farke is saying? What is the feeling at the training ground? What is being done to give these players confidence and to lift them a little bit? It can't be all down to the players.
No, I mean, I noticed in the press conferences of the three managers a very different message from all three. I will say that Parker and Wilder were very much a case of enjoying the moment, embracing it, and you could see that in the Sheffield United performance. I thought Coventry were woeful, by the way, and we were talking on Friday with regards to like the opposition and the way that the opposition come out against us in comparison to the others. But Sheffield United were decent on the day. Like, they've not been good this season, but they were decent on the day. I will say that. But Coventry were terrible. Now, yesterday, Swansea were good. I was impressed with the way that they pressed us. They effectively pressed us really well. They did not leave us with any time on the ball. For me, usually what works well against us is a deep block, a low block, and we've seen that we've been able to break that down this season, and eventually we end up scoring. Swansea were the first team, really, that I've seen this season that effectively pressed us and got the better of us. In that first half, they were the better team. They've not done much until the point of getting the penalty, but the penalty was without a doubt a penalty. And then from there on in, they were unlucky not to score. They hit the post. We were all over the place in terms of trying to build the play up. A lot came down to the fact that Ampadu was too slow in possession. Every time he got the ball, he looked uncomfortable in it. Bogle wasn't driving the ball down the right in the same way that he usually would do, little 1-2 passes to build up the play. Pirro wasn't getting involved enough. Rodon kept on smashing it out of play. Pascal, usual terrible distribution. Rothwell didn't get on the ball in the way. All of the things that you would need to build up play didn't happen. You gave the ball to Solomon. Solomon was making the wrong decision. I thought he was really poor yesterday, Solomon. Really, really poor. He couldn't have been upset if he'd have got pulled off at halftime. Now, there were others as well. He wasn't on his own.
He played 2 games in the international break, why give him a rest?
Well, maybe. But again, I mean, we'll come to this a little bit later on, but Ramazani gets 25 minutes and he was horrendous, mate. He was horrendous. Yeah. He spent more. I'm just going to have a little rant about Ramazani. Ramazani spent more time gesturing with Alan Sheehan, the Swansea manager, and trying to take the piss out of opposition players. So he got megsed, did Ramazani. And then about a minute later, he megs back the same player. But then he got caught dawdling on the ball in the middle of the pitch because he kind of wanted to look flashy and look like the man, to which then he got dispossessed and they went on a counter. They picked up the ball halfway inside our half because Ramazani was gesturing around like an idiot. So I don't think that Ramazani deserves to be starting games. I really don't. This call for him, like, he needs minutes and all that, he hasn't deserved it. Willie Gnonto deserves it because he's making a case when he comes on, he's affecting games. Ramazani isn't. So anyway, I don't want to jump around too much. The performance was really, really poor first half, and we didn't get the flow of the play in the way that we are doing. There is definitely a bit of an issue going on there, but I don't think it's fair to just say it was all down to us being poor. Swansea were really on us, and they did make a really good fist of what they were trying to do in terms of unsettling the way that we were playing, and we were very limited. Rodon over the top, try and put it into the channel for Dan James. That was it. Brendan Aronson, I thought, was busy. I thought he was our best player first half. He scores a goal. He was pressing really well. He showed a couple of moments of really quick feet to link play up, but he had nothing around him. You can't do it on your own. So, yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, mate.
No, it feels like a different team, doesn't it? To the one that we're watching, that were on that fabulous run just a few weeks ago, where it was all clicking. I want to talk about, in terms of the play as well, if it's kind of not working, that have we got enough variety in our play? Have we got enough kind of different ways to beat teams? I think that's
the style. I think that's more down to the style than it is the individual, because I do think that Gnonto's different to James. I think Ramazan is different to Solomon. I think you could play Pirro in the 10 and do something different up front. Maybe not with Joseph, because I don't think he's ready at all at the moment. But there is options that you can do there. I think the problem that we've got is we're limited in the style in which we play. The FARC system works tremendously well when it's working, but when it doesn't, it does then look limited. It's all outside, very little infield. We score the odd goal from Tanaka at the edge of the box, but very little comes centrally in terms of goals. It all comes from out wide, and if you manage to defend that well, you're limited for what you're creating, aren't you? So maybe I think there's a few things going on, right? We're on a bit of a weird run right now in which we still should have won way more games than what we have done. Portsmouth, we should have won that game easily. Pirro misses 2 sitters. We should have had a penalty. Like, there were other things in that game as well. QPR, we come back from 2-0 down. We had 40 minutes to go on and win that game. We did have some half chances without creating too much more. I'm not at the stage where I was when we played Blackburn at home last season and we created nothing for 90 minutes. Like, we're still well within.
I could see that
QPR 4-0. Well, maybe it does.
If it carries on like this, I think we'll see that.
It hasn't come yet, is what I'm saying. We're not talking about after the matter of 4-0 away at QPR last season as an example. Yesterday we were 20 seconds away from winning that game, and we were crap. So my point is that we're still yet to get to that point. That's the only kind of saving grace that we can get. But something needs to happen. Now, people are already quick to say, Gnonto needs to play at the 10 now. It's clear as day. I disagree. I think we'd have got ran over in that first half yesterday if Aronson wasn't in there, by the way. He made some silly fouls, but we would have got mullered if Brendan weren't in that midfield yesterday, because they were running through the midfield anyway. So what would they have done if we'd have had 4 attackers on the pitch? At least Brendan gives us some sort of defensive press. We certainly wouldn't have wanted to see us sacrifice anything more in there. But we have to start by making that ball change at the back, mate. I'm sorry to bring it back to it so quickly, but that is the number one change.
This is what I mean. This is, and I was mentioning to you before, and this is what I'm going round and round in my head with. I'm going, what about Farker this, Ramazan? What about this? What about that? But then you go, well, yeah, but just the goalkeeper. if we have, someone, look, like Peter says here, where's it gone? Sorry, Peter.
Second run.
Yeah. That's all we needed was a run-of-the-mill goalie. Exactly. What about, though, I mean, what's the point of having the best squad if really it's not potentially being utilised to its fullest? Now, I want to talk about Ramazani because I agree with you. I think when I've seen him recently, it's like, you're not really getting anything. We saw him in the FA Cup when he had a full game and he was poor. And I'm kind of, you look at the play and go, it's his fault for not making the most of his opportunities. But I also look at the manager and say, why are you not able to coax better performances out of one of the highest transfer fees of the summer in the league? He cost what, £13 million or whatever it was. He's clearly super talented. We saw it at the start of the season how talented he is. Why have you, Daniel Farker, not been able to get more from this guy? Now, is this a chemistry situation? Do they not really see eye to eye? Is it a little bit like Jed Spence? Is it kind of like just not his type of guy? It's not really clicking or what? But I would prefer it if we were able to get the best out of Ramazan because he's an unbelievable footballer when he's on it. And is this a failing of Farker to not coax more from someone who clearly is that talented? I mean, is it that easy to just go, yeah, he's just not taking his opportunity. It's all his fault. He should be doing more. I mean, it's like, just before you come in, Jadon Anthony last year fell into this where people are like, oh, we've lost Sinisterra, but Jadon Anthony's coming. He's really, he's a really talented player. And, some of those early performances he put in, he's smashing goals in and he looks great. And then his game time was limited. And then you saw him later in the season. It's like, we don't want you anywhere near the starting 11. And it was like kind of he was written off then, was Jadon Anthony completely. I'm like, well, actually, he was really good when earlier in the season. Must be something there. What is this failing of not being it? It's all right having these 4 unbelievable wingers and having this great thing. But if you can't coax the best out of it, if you're not maximising that, then that is your fault as well as the players, surely.
I think there's a middle ground to this, right? Because we have to be careful. I'm going to play. I know we're all going to want to bash Daniel Farker today, but we have to balance this, right? So, we all have managers, don't we? We don't all see eye to eye with a manager in the same way as maybe our colleagues do. And the same goes for footballers. A manager can come in and get a totally different tune out of a player in comparison to the previous manager. Dan James has been sensational for Daniel Farker. Probably Championship Player of the Year, and you can look through the team at other individuals that he's elevated and brought the game on. Somerville last season, Nonto's coming off the bench and making a difference. He's, maybe not getting his chances to start, but he has had plenty of chances to start as Willie Nonto over the 2 years under Daniel Farker. I would say that Willie Nonto's played himself out of the team. Ramazani started a game. Was it Derby away? And was stinky. I think it's his only start since he came back from injury. And when he's come on, he's done nothing to deserve that start. Now, I do think that he kind of falls into the same kind of bracket now as Schmidt, where he needs more opportunities. I can hear this argument, but I don't think it's just as clear as the manager can't get the best out of him, so it's on the manager. I think it's a two-way street, and you have to then balance that argument up with looking at the players that are then improving under Daniel Farker. Joe Perreault, as an example, has developed and adapted as a number 9 this season under Daniel Farker. You can't just go, that's all down to Joe Perreault, but Ramazani's attitude is all down to Daniel Farker. It has to be both. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So I'm a bit in the middle with this. Ramazani got a long time for a substitute yesterday to make an impression, and he was terrible. He was terrible. Individually, I think his work rate were a little bit meh. His attitude, as I've given you the example earlier, it been about him nutmegging a player and then dilly-dallying around on it, looking like the man in the midfield. Go and have a look at it if you've probably not seen it because it won't have made a highlight. But go.
Why aren't the journals asking Farke about Ramazani though? Because there's got to be something there where it's like,
what's
happening there? This was your big signing. Like, what's gone wrong here?
He clearly has a system, doesn't he, Daniel Farke, in terms of the way that he looks at his squad. And if you look at Borussia Mönchengladbach, you look at Norwich, from what I've heard, it was the same there as well. He falls into an 11. He sticks with that 11 unless something really strongly changes his mind. Bear in mind, Manor Solomon didn't start this season.
It's injuries, isn't it? It's injuries, isn't it?
An injury comes. I don't believe that Ampadu would have been taken out of the back line. No, if he'd have not got injured, I think Ampadu would have still been at centre back now, and Pascal would have been on the bench. But you know what? There's pros and cons, positives and negatives to Daniel Farke, and this is definitely, when it comes to this, it looks like this is a massive negative. You do have to bear in mind that this has still gotten us second at the moment. We would still be going up if the season finished today after 37 games. Yeah. So we have to balance the argument fairly. I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was, put earlier that we aren't going up with Aronson in the 10. That's just BS. It's just so much BS, it's untrue. Like, our problems do not come down to this number 10 situation and playing a winger at 10. I promise you it doesn't. Yeah, the issues that we've got are a little bit broader than that. They're a little bit more systematic of playing for Leeds United, mentality, experience. I do think Daniel Farke has some weaknesses that throw into this, because doing it with Norwich is not the same as doing it with Leeds. It's just not.
No, and it's a more competitive championship, isn't it, now at the top end?
Yeah. It was then.
You're getting 90 points. The worrying thing, obviously, now, Jason, is, this is our worst run of form in the season, and it's coming at the worst time. Hand on heart, do you see themselves clicking back into form? I'm sorry to say, I don't see a magic wand in this situation where all of a sudden they're going to get it, unless, I do want to caveat that with unless the keeper comes out, maybe, or something like that. Maybe that can spark a change of personnel, can spark something. I don't know, because for me, this is looking really peaky now. This is looking really like where I could see us getting beat significantly if we carry on in this way. Because what was worrying about yesterday is just the disjointedness, the lack of confidence. It's a shadow of what it was, just a few weeks ago. How, to so quickly fall off the rails like this. We those two wins against Sunderland and Sheffield United back to back. It's like, that was a really hard situation to dig ourselves out of, losing like we were, and we did it. And I'm honestly,
it's fine margins, though, isn't it? It's really, really fine margins.
What's going on?
Well, again, I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit here, but we're, a bag full of chances away at Portsmouth. The QPR game was winnable. West Brom would draw. Yesterday we're 30 seconds away from winning the game. Like, the fine margins, and we could actually be looking at a run of games in which we had maybe one draw or one loss in that period of time, and we won the rest of them. We're saying we actually have not played that particularly well in all them games. Then fine margins over the season make a massive difference, and that's why you need to be able to rely on your keeper, like yesterday, because you're going to have periods of the season or games that are like what we're going through at the moment. And that's why the keeper is so important. So important. To kind of answer your question, I have been super confident all year, all season. And yesterday was the first time I felt myself waver. And I usually sleep on stuff and kind of check in with myself and feel, think about how I feel about it the next day. And I still feel the same as I did yesterday. Yeah. I am worried. I am worried now. I don't think that this is, even though their fixtures are much more difficult than ours, and they've got each other to play, I have got no confidence at the moment that we're going to win 5 out of the 7. And I think that's what we need to do. I think we need to win 5 out of the 7. I think the points total for third is going to be like 95, 96. I really do. I think it's going to be that high. So No, I'm not saying that we can't do it or that we won't do it, but I think we're relying on a fall off of one of them two way more than what we really should be doing.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, I should be able to have confidence that a team that has been as dominant as we have been this season can win 6 or 7 out of the next 7, given the fixtures that we've got. But I've not. I think we've been looking at 3 or 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I don't even want to talk about the playoffs. I mean, we'd go into it with being the best team, but we'd just have no confidence given what we've been through with the playoffs. So I'm not even going to talk about it. I honestly believe that the game away at Luton is a bit make or break. It feels like the Middlesbrough game last season, and I know that we then went back to Ellen Road and ballsed it up after that. This season is different, but it feels like that. We need to win that game. Now, obviously, it's not going to be over if we don't, mathematically, but I think mentally, the pressure would be so intense. The pressure is already so ramped up. Sheffield United and Burnley are just enjoying it. The fans are enjoying it. The players are enjoying it. We're not. We're doing what we do as Leeds fans.
Isn't that just a mad thing? That it's
I've been telling you this all season, Brownie, and and this is not to throw shade at you.
Yeah.
You've been doing it all season too. You've been stressing all season, and this follows us around. I'm not trying to act all high and mighty. I'm just trying to enjoy my team winning football games. That's the only reason that because I went through exactly the same thing under Bielsa. I was stressing about it every week, but we bring that intensity because of the size of the football club that we are, the egos that we've got as fans, because we see ourselves as this massive club. We bring it to Ellen Road, and it plays on the shoulders of these players because they're just humans that are championship footballers for a reason. They cannot deal with it. I am telling you, I am absolutely, you know where to ever measure this. But if this Leeds United side with Daniel Farke, if you shifted them over to Bramall Lane or shifted them over to Turf Moor, they would have already got promoted. They'd have been done, mate. It'd have been done because it's not the same.
God, we're in the circle of hell, aren't we? Really, it's like we're just damned, aren't we? Whatever with the damned United, there's just honestly, I think you're spot on though. I think you're spot on from the first game. It was like when we drew that opening game, it was like crisis time. It was It's bonkers, after being so mediocre or less than mediocre for so many years and not challenging in the championship, certainly. But yeah, you're right. It's all this other stuff around it. Yeah. Oh God, honestly, Jesus. And this is why we're playoffs are no good because it's that times a million. Playing at Wembley is like Jesus. It's our kryptonite. It's Leeds United's kryptonite, for God's sake.
Yeah, I'm not even addressing that in my mind. At the moment.
God help us if it's that again. I think you're right though. I think looking at the Luton game, I mean it's 12:30 next Saturday. We'll be playing first, I think, aren't we, out of the other boys as well. And yeah, it does feel a little bit make or break. And I want to back the boys always, and I think it is tough. I think it's tough on them as people as well. They'll be no one will be more devastated than them players as well. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. But it's just, is it just too much to play under? And if we can't get that kind of looseness back to us play, if we can't get that kind of free flowing play back, I just don't see us doing it. I really don't.
I'm just going to throw something out there to you, and I'm not saying whether I agree with this or not, but do you believe there's any world in which we go to Luton, lose, and Daniel Farke loses his job with 6 to go? I'm not saying, I think it's no. It's but I'm just throwing it out there, and I'd be interested to know what Leeds fans think about it.
It's funny you mentioned that because apparently I would read an article. I think it was Beren Cross in The Athletic, and he mentioned about Parag Marate, and apparently yesterday in the director's box where they're all sat, he was like at full time. He was absolutely apparently like stony faced, ashen faced, because he knows the consequences of if we don't go up. And the problem is, if this squad look deflated, be lethargic, if it looks like it did against Swansea, against Luton, maybe a panic button does get pressed. I don't know. I mean, at that point in the season, though, it'd be it'd be
mental. It'd be an absolute madness. Like
it would be absolutely mental to do it. But football's a desperate game. We are desperate to go. If we don't go up this year, I mean, there's a strong argument actually that, and I'm not saying this is to blame or anything to do with that. It's just acquiring another football team or whatever. But if the 49ers get Rangers, they've got their Champions League, they've got their ticket to Europe and bigger revenues and everything like that. And they won't be able to invest as much in Leeds. They won't be able to have the highest salary in the league. They won't be able to do it. So it's going to be downgraded, and they know it. And I'm sure they're desperate to make sure we get it done. And desperation can lead to crazy decisions. But I can't see it. But I mean, football, who knows?
There's no way in which we go down there, I wouldn't have thought, obviously famous last words, and get pumped 3-0 or something, because this side is just too good. Like we don't lose like that, do we? Like, when we've lost, we've only lost by one. Well, that's what I'm saying. If we went down to Luton on Saturday, who were terrible, and lost 3-0, I could see it happening with then like somebody in mind that comes in, go and win the league over this next 6 games. Now there's all sorts of different, some fans will be excited by that. There is a lot to play in with that, with what the players would think, the system of football, the style that you're then going to ask these players to play to then go and win 6 out of 6 to go and take us up. I'm not excited by that proposition whatsoever. Like, not unless it was a magician manager. Like, it's not going to happen. We'd fall into the playoffs, we'd win in the semis, and we'd go out in the final. That's what would happen. So I'm not for it. But I could believe there'd be a world in which the 49ers would do that if the result and the performance was really bad at the weekend. I could see it.
Well, we're tending, aren't we, that way?
I
won't be surprised if we get walloped somewhere. I honestly won't be surprised if or Middlesbrough Tuesday night. I will not be surprised if the way we are currently and the vibe. I won't be surprised if something like that happens. The result getting beat. I really wouldn't.
Just in Skip's comment there is absolutely no way that Farke's still the manager of this team if we don't go up. There's absolutely no way, mate. The 49ers need us in the Premier League, and they are not going to sit by and watch a man that's failed at it twice. I'm still backing Farke. I am. The conversation over the Premier League is a completely different one altogether. But again, he doesn't help himself if you cannot then set your ego aside and make the big, difficult decisions when you need to, the likes with Ilan Meslier and dropping him out of the team. You can't defend that. You are asking to be sacked, Daniel. I'm sorry, you are. You're asking for this to go wrong.
Well, if we don't go up, he has failed absolutely.
Oh, this season.
It's a complete and utter failure, because the man has had unbelievable tools at his disposal last year and this year. And has not been able to manage it over the line. There's an argument, even if we go up. I mean, we said before. I mean, you said before. There's an argument. You go up, you bullet him anyway. Even if he got us over the line. And I think in the dizzying heights of post Sheffield United, I was like, no, Farke can do it in the Premier League. I'm sure it'll be fine. But I think he has some serious faults as a manager. I'm sorry, and I think like you say, if you can't see something staring you in your face, like the goalkeeper who's an absolute liability, I think there's a strong argument that an attractive Leeds United with a healthy transfer budget to spend in the Premier League doesn't go, thank you very much, Daniel. You are not up to the required level. What you've shown in 2 years, and that's harsh. Obviously 90 points probably in both years, but Premier League, is he Premier League? No, I don't know.
As some of you
know, my gut
instinct,
and it might be completely wrong, is he's not good enough for the Premier League. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel.
Well, as some of you know, I do have connections to Leeds, and I was speaking to somebody who still works at Leeds now, and they mentioned Jurgen Klopp. Obviously, we've got the connection with Red Bull. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that wild of a take, given the jobs that Klopp has taken, given the fact that he's been out of the game for a bit. I could imagine he'd be attracted by a massive wage.
What was that? Was that someone saying they would be looking at something like that, or was that like just mentioned as
it was more
the Red Bull
broad term? It was more
right,
just a broad term that he could imagine that that'd be something that the Red Bull, the 49ers, and would look at. Now, obviously, we can only hope to have them possibilities. Gavin, you said Klopp no chance. No, everybody that said Bielsa no chance in the Championship, and we brought in Badrazzani and Victor Orta. So like, I don't. It's wild. Don't get me wrong. It's wild. Minimal chance. But my point is that we need the Premier League to be able to even look in that ballpark. Like I said in the group the other day, this promotion this season is the difference between us being able to be an Aston Villa, a Brighton, and a Newcastle in that conversation of club, going for cups, challenging to qualify for Europe, or being just a Sheffield United and a Burnley, a yo-yo team that has the potential of going up and coming down. This season is make or break for that. I mean, God knows how long we'll end up being stuck in here if we don't go up this season. That's a different conversation. But in terms of us having the potential to be able to build to get back there, because the gap is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, Yeah. So we need to go up this season.
We do. Would you bullet him if we went up? Based on what you've seen, I guess it's a little bit unfair because you don't know who the potential candidates are, who they will be looking at. But hand on heart, is Daniel Farke good enough for the Premier League, do you think?
The problem is that we as fans can only understand what goes on behind the scenes to a certain degree so much. We don't know how much the players love him and work around his ideology and his style. We don't know the damage that it would cause on the back of promotion, showing to all them players, balls to you, sacked, bullet. Like, we don't know the damage that would cause on potentially trying to stay up next season. So again, I always like to try and counter the balance and try and deal with it with some logic. A lot of fans are just like, yes, sack him, go and get into it. But I say that and then can totally understand why some fans would say that. And I would understand why the club did it. Gary O'Neill at Bournemouth did a great job as an example, kept them up, boom, bullet. Iriola, you're his man, you're who we want, and look where Bournemouth are now. So you can definitely see some proceeds in and around that. I think it'd be cutthroat, I think it'd be brutal, but only the club can really make that decision with an informed knowledge of what damage it would do, if any. So really tough one, really tough one. Well, I always want us to win every single game, but I would be very, very interested to know what the reaction would be if we lost at Luton. I would.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting aspect now is Nick Hammond's likely to go with Kinnear to Everton.
Yeah, I've seen that.
He's linked there, and you wonder the impact on recruitment over the summer and everything like that. I think there's going to be an extra portion of the transfer window for Premier League teams this season as well. So it could be the year where if you're really good and recruit well, you've got plenty of time and scope to do it. Fingers crossed. Right, let's have a look at some of your comments then, guys, because you've been getting them in. Thank you so much for that. I'm sorry we've not come to them earlier, but
please do understand that we needed this for therapy. Hopefully you've still enjoyed us rabbiting. I've just seen a Twitter post on the side here. Get the statue built for Meslier, being Sheffield United's most important player this season. Like, how bad is that? Brilliant. How bad is that? Yeah. That is what we're dealing with.
Fair play. Skip, over the years, we haven't been ruthless enough as a club. We need to change. Well, absolutely. Mark, remember I said from day one, Meslier will cost this team promotion. Let's have a look what else we've got here. Gavin saying, Veron Cross said Prague looked pissed off at the end and walked away. The 49ers took on this club after a relegation that wasn't supposed to happen, really. And they didn't necessarily have to pick up the slack with Leeds United. They could have just sat back, and they've taken it on, obviously confident in themselves and, the confidence in the man that they've got. I mean, you do wonder what happens to the project, don't you, Jay, if we don't get up. I mean, you just can't move forward, can you? I mean, stadium development. Obviously the season ticket increase is going to be regardless, but it feels like they've really tried to push it as much as they can. But it's going to be difficult to know where the project goes really if we don't go up.
I still think that they will go again. like they've got too much money and time invested in this club to then just kind of let it go by the wayside. They want to make this into a big profit when they look to sell the business.
Yeah.
So I do think they'll go again. The problem that we're going to have is we're going to be hamstrung by financial regulations, players wanting to leave again, and all the rest of it that comes with it. We're then going to also have Leicester, Ipswich and Southampton come down, who are going to be stronger than Burnley and Sheffield United this season. So, and stronger than they were when they came down the first time. So, yeah, like we then kind of get pushed in the pecking odds to maybe fifth favourites or something like that. So, yeah, you know, and I look through our squad, and as much as they struggle being Leeds United players, some of them in terms of dealing with the mentality and the stresses that come with playing for the shirt, they don't struggle with going and playing for Brentford or Bournemouth or whoever. Like, they can step up and become even better players. I look at Tanaka, I look at Ampadu, I look at Joe Rodon, I look at Jayden Bogle, Nonto, even Dan James. Like, people want to scoff at Dan James. Dan James would have a fistful of suitors from the Premier League after this season. He would have a bag full of them, mate. You know, and then you're left with the ones that you're not really that bothered about, you know, and recruiting them again to go again.
Yeah.
Like,
God.
Yeah. Oh God, no. So no. I'm going to watch non-league. If Melier is playing for Leeds next
I'll be
season
with
in
you.
any capacity, I mean, I'm obviously being.
We'll be doing Bradford Park Avenue post-match reaction.
Yeah, to two people, and one of them's Lewis. Right. No. I don't even want to think about
it. Chris, our mate from the West Yorkshire Football Show, all fans of the top three will be stressing about this.
I disagree with that. I think they'll be stressing in a normal way. They're not stressing like we're stressing.
Not hyper stressing like
they're not. They're enjoying it.
Yeah,
you know, Sheffield United and Burnley are yo-yos anyway. They're used to it, aren't they? Like,
yeah, it's part of the course, isn't it? Tom, crazy to think at the start of the season we all thought we will romp the league with the quality of our squad. Then the Championship hits us with a reality check.
We should have done that. We should be romping the league. We just add 12 points to it and we're romping it.
Yeah, absolutely. Skip, if we drop points against Luton, it's going to be toxic. I mean,
it's not really toxic.
I mean, if it's anything other than a win, it's going to be. I mean, just rinse and repeat this show next week, probably, if it's going to be.
I can't imagine what the show will be like next week if we lose to Luton.
No, exactly. Parag Swag, he says, obvious. Ampadu was miles off it first half. An elite manager sees that and changes it at halftime. What did you make? That's what I wanted to ask you about. What did you make of Farke's comment about 100% will be playing in the Premier League next season? Seemed a bit out of character. I've heard one take actually that I was like, oh, maybe it was like he was trying to deflect away possibly from Melier or whoever might make quite an outlandish kind of statement, which he normally doesn't do. I mean, when I've got to admit, I was a bit pissed off when I saw it. I just thought, oh, please do one, because that we just, forget it. It sounded desperate to me, I've got to say. But if it was used for maybe a deflection tactic or something like that, maybe it makes more sense. But it
reminds me of I Know My Strikers. It reminds me of when he came out with that, and then he's ended up playing Perot 9. So I didn't like it, if I'm honest.
Was that where Perot was a striker or wasn't?
No, he wasn't a striker. He was trying to basically say that he knows his strikers and he knows how to get the most goals out of Joe Perot. And that's when he was forcing him at 10, and then lo and behold, he's ended up playing all season at number 9. So you were wrong there, Daniel. It reminded me a little bit that it was very out of character. I thought, I think the pressure's getting to Daniel Farke. I'll be honest with you, I do.
Yeah, I do.
I don't think he is or has been used to this level of intensity on top of it. Like, you felt it in the ground yesterday. Like, you could hear it on TV. Like, it was nervy from minute one in there, and that's what it takes to be a Leeds United manager and player. You got to deal with that. It's tough. It's really, really tough. You know, I've just seen Gavin say about Stoke smashing QPR yesterday. QPR have gone on a bad run since. Portsmouth have lost every game since we went and lost down there. You know, like we're not. I mean, some of this is about the team stepping up and playing that extra 20% that I talk about against Leeds United. Some of that's true too. But the results that we've picked up against Portsmouth, QPR, and yesterday in Swansea, you know full well that Sheffield United and Burnley, they turn them up and they turn them over. Burnley couldn't get a second goal yesterday, but Bristol City had 2 shots all game, none on target. Completely cruised that game yesterday at home against a team that are desperate for points to go into the playoffs. You know what I mean? So the big difference between them and Swansea. So,
all the red flags.
Pompey won yesterday, but you know my point. They've not been on good form since beating us. So I am worried about Farke. I can't lie, and it's frustrating because, like I said, I spent all season defending him, but yeah.
But there's no telling what pressure does to people, is there? And yeah, I agree. I think he does look like he's cracking. I think a statement like that yesterday, if it's not said for, if it's just straight what he said, it sounds very kind of outlandish, very outlandish.
Yeah.
Emmett, playing for Leeds United demands a certain character and minerals from a player. Sorry, but the guys we have don't seem to have it. I've already given up on this season, and I already feel relieved.
I think that's...
Emmett's gone. Emmett's gone early.
Come on, man. Like, we're still actually in second, and we still have the most favourable fixtures, and Sheffield United and Burnley have each other to play. So, you know what? I'm just going to dig you a little bit here. If you're giving up now, then you're kind of creating the problem, because we do actually need to be there to help the players over the line. Yeah, that is part of football. That is part of what being a supporter is about. Yeah. I do have a problem with the atmosphere that we create at times in Ellen Road. I do. I have a bit of a problem with it, because the human beings out there that paid a lot of money to do what they do, and they get to live a dream that many of us would have. But so do Burnley players, and so do Sheffield United players, and they've got their fans right behind them. Whereas we're almost baying for failure. I don't know. I just find it odd at times. I love my club. I've supported them up and down the country in the League One days, followed them home and away every game, and it didn't matter who we were playing. We gave everything that we possibly could to make sure that we were behind them. And it kind of feels at the moment like we're almost waiting for them to fail. I hate it. I really, really don't like the atmosphere we create at times. Anyway, I know that won't be a popular opinion, but it's my opinion.
Yeah. I think it's almost that thing of when a fan base senses a manager's kind of on the way out, and it's almost that weird thing of, just a couple more bad results and this guy will be gone, and it's like almost kind of wanting to get to that stage. And the problem is,
I was right.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem is, Farke's won. What was it? The quickest to 50 wins or something. Wins. He's got these ridiculous. Some of the successes that has been phenomenal. And that's the problem. But there's still been that uneasiness with Farke. There's not a true kind of backing of him really from the majority of the fan base. You still get the sense that, like you say, a lot of people have been waiting for him to fail. Let's be honest. Yeah. A lot of any game where we've dropped points, it's Farke's fault.
Yeah. Well, Gavin's one of them. Yeah, I love Gavin. I love Gavin, and he's always here and he's always chatting with us. But Gavin's one of them. He can't wait, and the fan base is full of them. And I'm not even saying that you're wrong. It's the ghost of Bielsa. That's what that is. The ghost of Bielsa, and how much love we had for the man who's up on my wall over here. It weighs too heavy on some fans to the point where they can't see the wood from the trees, and they just are super hyper focused and critical on every single failing that the manager has. Every single manager, especially at championship level, is going to have failings. That's why they're in the championship, the same as the players. So it's not going to be perfect. But Bielsa weren't perfect, were it?
No.
So, but that's what's
that unanimous support, though, didn't it?
It did.
What was wild with the Els is just how unanimous that support was. I mean, I've never seen it with the manager ever, but I think
if Bielsa had never come along and Farke would have had these 2 seasons after 18 years in the championship, he'd have had exactly the same thing. Norwich fans still love him, even though he ended up being sacked there. They still absolutely idolise him. Yeah. So I get it. I mean, like I say, I'm a Bielsa widower myself as well. I still watch games randomly on highlight just to kind of experience it again. I absolutely loved it. Gav, it's not my opinion, it's fact. That's a fact. This is how some fans treat this period of time under Daniel Farke. Some fans wanted him out after a few games, and he's he is factually the most successful championship manager ever. Yeah. You know what I mean? In terms of wins, in terms of winning the championship. So, I just try and not sit on the fence. I try and have a balanced view of what's happening. He has loads of failings and he does loads of things wrong. Absolutely, he does. But there is a flip side to it too. But all that said, we don't go up. We miss out on the top two. He's failed miserably and he needs sacking. And does he need sacking if we get to the Premier League anyway? Maybe. I can understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. Liam, I want to pull up your comments as well. You've got 3 getting into it as well. Thank you for these, mate. This is all on Farke. Refused to do business in January because he didn't want it to upset current players, which is tripe. Board offered him goalkeeper solutions, which he openly turned down and stuck by Melier.
You don't know that.
We don't know.
You don't know that.
Lack of rotation, running players into the ground and not using squad depth has led to burnout yet again. He moans about international break, but other clubs didn't seem to have an issue. He's blamed lack of preparation for this game, but now has told the players to have 48 hours off. They should be doing double sessions. Farke will cost us if Melier hasn't already.
I think Liam makes some great points there. Don't agree with him on the first one, but the second 2 messages, I actually think he's spot on. I think, again, the pressure showing and telling on Daniel Farke is he's starting to contradict himself a lot. Like, I thought some of his comments yesterday just made no sense.
Yeah.
So it's about no preparation, but then you're going to give them less preparation for the next game. It's about the international period, but we all had international periods. Sure, we had a few more away and we had Tanaka and Firpo further away and all the rest of it. Get that. But you didn't see Wilder and Scott Parker looking to make any excuses in there. Pre-match, post-match, they just got about the game. They rotated the squad. They say fatigue, he mentions fatigue and tiredness, but then again, doesn't ever rotate his squad. You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. So I can understand him sticking steadfast to his starting 11, but then you have to live and die on that sword, Daniel. You can't then just go, my team are tired, but I'm not prepared to ever use my bench. The players that have been sat here for 2 weeks, Ramazani being one of them, can't start the game. But Mana Solomon, who's just played 2 games this week, starts. Like, come on, Daniel. Like, you just stick to it and be like, that's my 11. And until somebody dislodges them, they're going to start. Say that. And I can respect, because that then is consistent with what you're doing. What you're doing and saying is inconsistent. So I agree. I agree with that.
Well, it's like I mentioned it on Thursday, where he'll sometimes answer a question and kind of go around the houses, kind of touch on almost every kind of facet of the point, some of it is just kind of it all points to someone who's kind of struggling as much as kind of everyone else in this situation, really. And you look at Wilder and Parker, and they're just turning up, and it's business as usual. I mean, Sheffield United, they come through the Wednesday game, they come through the Coventry game, and I don't know. Where do we go from here then, Jason? I mean, it's Luton. We've got a week off. Players are going to be off for 48 hours. I just I'm really finding it hard to kind of think of the positives with this, because although we are still in second, everything points to that. That's not going to be the case, if not the next game, within the next 2 or 3. And I'm absolutely gutted to say that. I've been so agitated and worked up since yesterday, because it's just to get to this point of the season again, and you're watching the Titanic sink. You're watching it unfold, and there's just nothing anyone can seem to do. They can't sort it out. They're the only ones that can do it. I do agree with your point where we've got to get behind them and back them, especially at Ellen Road, and they'll have terrific away support. But I don't know. It's madness, Jason. It really is.
Yeah, mate. I don't know. I don't know where we go from here now. I mean, obviously we go on to Luton, and we need to see a change. We need to see a performance. Did Luton win at the weekend? I seem to think that they did.
Quick look for you, Luton. Yeah, they did. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, they got beat Hull.
Yeah, they beat Hull. Yeah, 1-0 away.
Yeah, big win. So they'll be bouncing, because they need points desperately to stay up. So I think it's going to be a really tricky game Saturday. But it doesn't matter how tricky it is. This team needs to turn up. Daniel Farke needs to turn up. He needs to make the big calls this week in training and preparation for the game. And they need to go out there and make a statement and win that game. It can't be, it's a 12:30 kickoff nonsense. or it's near London. I can't hear none of that. Like,
No.
it doesn't matter. This stage of the season, 7 games to go, we need to go there and we need to win. And we need to hope to kind of relieve a little bit of pressure that one or both of the other two drop some points. Yeah, because they are going to drop points as well, guys. They are. I mean, Burnley might not lose another game between now and the end of the season. They might not. Maybe they lose to Sheffield United. They're 26 unbeaten, Burnley. Like, they are on some run. But they will drop points. They're not going to win the next 7 each. They're not. So we just have to try and take one game at a time and win that game. But it starts with Daniel Farke really taking grip of the situation this week. And it starts with replacing Neil Amelia.
Absolutely.
You bring them together as a team. You know Ilan's had, these situations. We're all behind him. However, this stage of the season, you're gonna have Caldalo behind you. Joe, Ethan, you've got a great partnership with him in the Wales national side. This is how you big your team up. You guys know, you know each other. I want to see you support him. I want to see you giving him the captain, the leadership of Ethan Ampadu, rallying cry. He's your man. Yeah, he's going to be in goal for the rest of the season. That's what you tell him. And you just draw a line under it. Like, Big Sam didn't do much right, but one thing that he did do right was he instantly dropped Lamelia and brought Joe Robles in. Like, and it didn't keep us up, no, but it did improve the situation. It did. So, this is a time where you earn your big bucks, Daniel. It really is.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Nige, afternoon, guys. Darlow has to go in for the last 7 games, in my opinion. Can he be any worse? Clearly, our defence don't trust him anymore. Automatic spot looking unlikely. Skip, let's not forget 7 of our starting 11 went through this last season and wasn't mentally strong enough. Gav, 2 wins in 13 at 12:30. And then Nige finishing up. I hope Parag had a serious chat with Farke last night. It's their investment on the line here. Yeah, I mean, it's, just since you kind of posed that, could something happen possibly? And with how football is, I don't know. I mean, there's so much riding on this. Who knows, to be honest? Who knows? Farke has to inspire something, though. He has to pull the group together. It's okay doing it in December and January and September and October. Great, brilliant. You put us in. You've got fastest number of wins, etc., etc. This is business time now. This is the crucial time. We didn't get it done last year. Try and get it done this year. But I just the feeling, watching them, seeing that, unless there's a couple of changes, he's got to do something. First, like you say, Melia has to be out. That's the first thing you do. And if he doesn't do that, then I don't see this happening for him. I really don't. I really, really don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I definitely wouldn't be that shocked if we did lose on Saturday if something did happen. I'm not saying it will. I think it's still a wild call, but I wouldn't be surprised because they will have candidates even for this stage of the season to come and do that job. I'm telling you now, they would.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me because, like you said, there is a lot on the line. I know we're going on and on here a little bit, but I kind of just want to keep on talking, to be honest. It's therapeutic. But coming into the game Saturday, I don't know about you, but I would make some drastic calls. I would obviously bring Firpo back in. I would drop Pascal and I'd play Ethan and Joe in front of Caldalo. I think that'd give great chemistry. They know each other. It'd give a real confidence to what's going on in that back line. It won't drop Pascal, but I would. That's exactly what I would do. 100%. I would play Gruev in front of him. In Ethan's role with Tanaka, and I would, if you're gonna insist on bringing Willing onto him, you bring him in for Dan James. For me, I'd still play Brendan. Personally, I'd still play Brendan because I think he gives us that press in that area of the pitch. He gives us a natural 10 over 90 minutes. I don't think that this is a stage of the season where you want to be risking a winger at 10 over 90 minutes away at Luton. I just really, I don't even see it. I don't understand what you're expecting to get out of it personally. But I can happily get on board with Nonto playing in his actual position out on the wing. But I still think Dan's been great. But I personally would still go for the same front four. But I think what's going on behind them is the problem. You know what I mean? You can't just look and say, oh, Dan James has had a bad period of games when the rest of the team have all been playing crap as well. I do think Jayden Bogle's a bit of an issue at the moment. I thought it before the international break, and I hope the rest are doing good. But he's been really off it for 4 or 5 weeks.
I thought it was his yellow card accumulation.
Yeah.
But then he's got past that, and it's kind of it's not happening, is it? I 100% agree with Darlowin and Ampadu for Strike. I think no-brainer, absolute no-brainer at this point. You get rid of Meslier, you get rid of Strike, who were so vulnerable, in my opinion. Tanaka and Gruev, yeah, absolutely. That's been formidable away from home for us. They've done really well as a pair away from home for us. In terms of the front four, I don't know.
Can I just ask?
Peru is 100%.
Yeah, he has to play.
And I'm not saying, I mean, it's just so hard, though, because Ramazani's been so poor. I definitely wouldn't start Ramazani.
I mean, Gavin's put it in comments there. Based on what?
No,
based on what? 3 games, 6 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago. It's madness. I know he was good in them 3 games, but he has done nothing in any appearance since he's come back. You just, if Ramazani had been starting all these games and Solomon had been on the bench, you'd have been saying the exact same thing about Solomon, just because. If the roles were reversed, I'm absolutely sure of it. It's just the want for what's not on the pitch. You know what I mean? It makes no sense. Nonto makes sense because he's come on and changed games. No, but Solomon's not been crap for the last 4 games. It was really crap yesterday. I'll give you that. It was poor yesterday. But he'd played 2 games in the last 5 bloody days. And for that, I blame Daniel Farker. Yeah, I can absolutely get on board with that. But he's not been crap. Solomon's actually probably been our most creative player over this bad run of games that we've had. He's assisted most of the goals. A couple of them were an own goal, wasn't it?
He shouldn't have gone off against QPR either. Massive mistake from Farker, taking him off. Like you say, maybe I don't know. I don't know, because the problem is I think Farker will go for the same front 4, but like you say, I think he'll still have Strike in there, and Meslier. I think Meslier will stay in.
I think it'll be the same team.
And I think if he does, and if we don't win, I mean, it'll be
Firpo, won't it? Firpo for Byram.
That'll be it. And Tanaka obviously starting. Well, I don't know.
And Tanaka for Rothwell, maybe, Yeah.
What kind of week is this going to be, Jason? What do you think the is going to be like? And it's just going to be horrible, isn't it? I mean, the conversation that's going to be going on this week. I think the journalists need to kind of get into Farker a bit about this, Ramazani stuff, and just try and kind of press him a little bit more. Meslier stuff as well. I know he said no, he's my number one. It's not the time to talk about it, but when is the time to talk about it? This is what he always says when he's dropped a clanger, that we can't talk about it. Well, when can we talk about it? When can we talk about it?
We'll just talk on that before I come to Gavin's comment there as well, because I want to talk a bit more about Aronson before we finish. I thought his comments were, again, really hypocritical and contradictory. So he said, we're not going to talk about Meslier. We're not going to talk about the mistakes. Now's not the time to talk in emotion. But let me tell you, and let's talk about how Tanaka balls in it up. It was literally one sentence after the other. He said, I'm not going to criticise Meslier for the individual mistakes, but how Tanaka plays a terrible pass and puts it out for a corner. Which is it, Daniel? Do you criticise players in public or not? Because again, contradictory stuff I can't do with. If you're going to churn players out in public, do it to all of them. Tell us what you actually think about that Illa Meslier drop, and how can you justify that? But you know what I mean, and or say nothing for either. Because Tanaka makes a big mistake, but it's definitely not as bad as what then comes, is it?
No, exactly.
So
Gavin, you were saying time to shake things up. Players like Aronson knows he starts every week.
I think Aronson knows, obviously, has got confidence that he's going to start every week because he's the only out-and-out 10. He plays every week because he is the only 10 at the club. I think that's a problem for recruitment. It's another conversation that we can have for a different time. But why have you not got the same passion and enthusiasm towards that conversation with regards to the likes of Pascal Schroik? Yeah. Why is it only the American boy that you kind of bring that to because you don't like him? Like, I just find it irritating. It grates on me. You know, I could apply that to Jayden Bogle as well. Jayden Bogle's been off it for weeks. You know, Joe Rothwell has had one good appearance against Millwall. The rest of the time, every appearance he's played recently has been poor. Yeah. But so, again, I was hoping you were going to say this. So then, Gav, you say 2 assists all season. Isn't his goal at the weekend a prime example of why the G&A just doesn't mean anything? Yeah, so he gets a goal yesterday, but that could be no defence to his performance, right? Because it was what it was. Yeah, it was the kind of goal it was. I've said this before. Our goals and assists come from the wings. The style of play doesn't lead to a creative 10 getting loads and loads of assists in this team. If you don't understand that, I would encourage you to go and watch the way that we score goals again. Go and watch them, go and play them, go and pause them at the times where the players get put into positions and watch where the goals come from. They don't come from Brendan Aronson's position. That's why Joe Perreault, I mean, he's had a good season this season, but that's why he doesn't get on the end of loads and loads of chances, because it doesn't lead to him being on the end of it. It leads to Firpo, Bogle, Dan James, Solomon, Ramazani, Nonto getting on the end of them chances. It doesn't lead to the 10. Now, I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not. But I'm saying that there's a reason that his G&A isn't what, I don't know, what you want it to be, I guess. Like, it's very, very, very misleading in the system. He didn't do nothing after that. He didn't. You're just choosing, because you don't like him, to ignore the good stuff and hyper-focusing on all the bad. That's my point. Again, like I say, where's this energy for Pascal Schroik, who has been terrible for 4 or 5 months now? Every time he's played.
Getting away with it completely.
He gets away with it. He gets away with murder, mate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What do we think then? Do we leave it there?
I know, we've just waited, haven't we? This has probably been the worst one of the season, isn't it? Which is crazy, really, after a 1-1 draw. It just shows the standard of the season, I guess. Yeah, we'll probably leave it there, mate, and we move on to Luton.
Should we reconvene later in the week, see how we're feeling pre-Luton?
Maybe, yeah, I'm down. I'm down for that. Yeah.
See if his mood's improved. I'm not sure that it will, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. It'd be interesting to see what he says at his next press conference as well. Listen, thank you everyone who's commented as well. Really appreciate you getting your comments in. If you can like the video as well, if you're not watching this live, if you're catching this again later, just give us a like and a subscribe. Just helps the channel. Get your comments in as well. I mean, where are we at, Leeds fans? What's left for us now? What's going to happen next? It's the bad thing, isn't it? It's the bad thing is happening again. I hope the boys can turn it around. I really do. But I've got some serious doubts. Myself and Jason, we will be back either for a post-match, or we'll try and reconvene later in the week as well. Maybe just see how we're feeling before the Luton trip as well. But thank you everyone so much for watching and commenting. We will be back again later. I've been Stephen Brown. Alongside me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we will see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.